I'm shattered by the shark attack yesterday in Sydney, the footage associated with that, and the way in which that man died, the brutality of the attack, the horror of the whole, oh my God, way in which life works. I mean, we take for granted, I'm out here all the time. I've done 53 kilometres on my hydrofoil or something like that in the last 2 days. We've had the wind for it. But you take for granted what's going on under the water, and this man was brutally, without mercy, attacked by what they believe to be a great white shark. And I'm pretty well, I'm sobered by it. Now, the brutality of maternal love. I've had a lot of experience with single mothers. I take nothing away from them. I mean, you cannot have the attitude, well, I don't think you can have the attitude that single mothers are dangerous. I think single mothers come with domestic formations that can work against you, severely work against you. Now, in my instances, I think the biggest thing that can work against you is the maternal aspect, relative to conflict when you're in a relationship with a single mum. I think the safest thing for any man to do who is going to be in a blended type of relationship, because I was in one of these when I was younger, and I've been in a couple of these when I've been older, is to first understand that a mother's got to be a mother, and that's her first priority. When in the younger, when these women had younger children, I could understand that, but I've just come out of 2 relationships that I've had to let the women go with older children, where the older children were so bonded to their mother that it was like the mother was with another person, having an affair with another person. Now, it may not have been sexual, but it was definitely emotional, and it becomes exasperating when you're competing with a maternal bond and you're trying to build a relationship that's fruitful. The maternal bond will win every time. That's understandable, and that's how it should be. But you need to realise this before you go into the relationship. I don't think it's right to just conclude that all single mothers are dangerous. Single mothers are going to have consequences and situations that are predictably going to work against you. Now, what it can do is affect your self-esteem depending on how it goes. Like, I've had some beauties, I've had some incredible, horrible situations work against me. Usually from the children, where they will undermine your credibility with the mother. It only takes a matter of time before they win, and they will win. They know the mother better than you do, and they know exactly how to manipulate and dominate and control these women. And once they get their claws into the trigger the maternal instinctual protective part of the mother, you're in a place where there'll be no reason, no understanding. It'll be very difficult for her to jeopardize her credibility with the children. So you're the third wheel, you're the third, what could I say? You're the third on the ladder, you're the third spoke in the wheel. You're not a priority. You're just not. So you need to understand this before you start. You will not be the priority. She'll have you as her man. Some women are capable of making you the priority for a certain amount of time until they're filled with the masculinity that they need, or their femininity is satisfied, but they will default back to being a mother, because that's their default, that's their safety place. The thing being that usually the problem that you're going to run into is the woman's default. So you beat before you start. Back, what would it be now? Oh, be nearly 15 years ago or 12 years ago, I had a wonderful woman. We got on like a house on fire. She had a good little 10-year-old boy at the time. I was with him for a few years. Yeah, we were pretty good mates. We just kicked the soccer ball around and everything, but he was still, him and his mother's relationship was still something that I just stayed on the fringe of. But I have to give that woman credit. I mean, she really sunk herself into me, and in the end she wore herself out. She couldn't take any more masculinity. She actually probably overdid it, but the problem that happened there wasn't necessarily maternal in its ending, but what you will find is where you're the third spoke in the wheel, they will and can tend to deprioritize you. Now, this is something, again, it takes experience to understand how all this is going to go and the time phases in which this is going to work. But once they start trying to condition you and dropping you back on the amount of times they want to see you or something, and it's a serious relationship, then you have to ask yourself whether you want to be conditioned in that way or not. What this will usually be a result of is the woman being over-satisfied, and she's going to need some space and probably a rest from you, depending on how active you are and how much you're giving to her, because a lot of these women are affectionate and they are attracted to you, and they don't know when to stop, and they overdo themselves, they overcook themselves with the masculinity, and then they need to recover. They need to go away and recover. I understand all that. So with this last one, what I had was a very different situation, because I was dealing with two young adults, and I don't know how hard they were working on her to get rid of me, but they did say at the start they didn't like middle-aged men. So I don't know what had actually happened to them, and quite frankly, I didn't really care, because I wasn't there to deal with two young adult men. I was there to see their mum. But they pretty well went to work on me right from the outset. I did get along with them superficially, it appears, because, mate, I've never seen people so determined to undermine the prospects of their mother having a decent relationship. But there was all other psychologies and enmeshments involved around that as well. So they had their world and I'd come into it. I got my world, so she was equally being invited into mine. My world being a world of order, and her world being a world of peace to cover the chaos and the wastedness, I suppose. There was a lot of wastedness there, without being critical. Neither of the boys had licenses or seemed to have a vision or motivation to really excel at anything, which really saddened me, because I said to her, I can, share some tips with these guys that could really excel them. I could have got them jobs where they were making $1,200 a week or $1,000 to $1,500 a week, but they didn't like middle-aged men, so it was no good asking them if they wanted to go in the construction industry, because their attitude wasn't right from the start. So whereas I believe personally they probably would have loved it. But again, if you're dealing with a woman that's taught them to hate men, and that's the truth of it, I'm sorry, because of her hurts from men, then g'day, Jay. How are you? Did you see that shark attack? Oh, God. That was brutal, wasn't it? Mate, I'm rattled. You know what I'm like out here. That could happen any moment out here.
Don't jinx us.
No, I won't. You know, when a woman's hurt by men, of course, she's going to need to vent. And usually, unfortunately, that's with the people that are closest to her, which in this case was the sons. And she'd vented to the point where they just hate men. They've decided, no, we hate men, and that's all there is to it. So what that does then is she's sharing intimate details with children that she really ought not to share with those children. And this is where a lot of parents, male and female, go wrong. You need to have a therapist and share your intimate details with them. Otherwise, you're inviting these children into an area of your life in which they don't belong, so that when you get a partner and the partner comes into that space, the child will react and go, hang on a sec, I've just tolerated all of your I've just supported you for all this time, and now you're going off with this other person. Well, that's not fair. And this is where a lot of the opposition and protesting, and it can even go so far as villainizing, comes from, because they need you to disappear. The woman will try everything she can to prevent that, but you're not there to stop the onslaughts from these people when she's on her own with them, undermining you and pulling you apart and all the stuff that's predictable. This last one got to the point where the younger one, who was the golden child, said to her, I think you're neglecting me because of him, who was me, the partner. And I said to her, did you say that so, like, it seemed to me like she said that so that I'd go. I said, do you want me to go? I can go. I mean, just on that, my experience, and this boy saying that, or this young man, 23-year-old, saying that, that's like a hint that I need to go. To me, it's saying go. She goes, oh, no, rah, rah, rah. But if I had to use my mind correctly, I would have just said to her, that's this flag for me to go. Because it was actually my gut that was saying go. It wasn't their message. What he was actually saying to her, tell him to go, because I'm jealous. I need my connection with you. So the next thing was, after that, I said, I'll hang around then. The next thing was, oh, I haven't got enough time to spend with him, she said to me, which was another red flag. I'm thinking, oh dear, okay, so now, see, this is where they start to condition you to the cutback. And I said, no, I'm going to have to leave. So I left. We broke up. Cut a long story, it got very venomous, and we left. Well, I left. We split up for about 3 weeks. It wasn't that we didn't get along as a couple. I mean, we got on really well, as usual, but it was the interference and the maternal struggles that she went into because of this man, this young man of hers, that was obviously wanting more of her attention. We somehow or other contacted each other again, and we got back together, and we had 3 really good weeks. But what I said to her was, I don't want any interference from these men of yours. And she was under the impression that she had that under control. And then on the 3rd week, she goes, I'm going to be late because I need to be home for blah, 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 blah. And I said, well, if you're not home for blah, 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 is he going to have a nervous breakdown, or is he going to hurt himself, or is he going to chuck a tantrum? Like, what's actually going on? I mean, you've cut me back from 5 to 3, seeing you 3 times a week. We're trying to build a relationship. You want me to be exclusive. But the fact of the matter was, she wasn't exclusive. She wasn't exclusive at all. She was emotionally living out the emotional side of her life beyond the maternal aspects with her young man son, who she formed into the man that I believe she always wanted but couldn't get. This is how crazy it got. I mean, when this kid come into the room, she'd light up. It was really bizarre. It was really bizarre. I'm not even going to try and explain it. I did tell her what I was seeing, and I'm sure she tried to understand. But you can't break bonds like that. It was like, it got to the point where when we had arrangements to see each other, felt like I was a car crossing a train line that was stuck on the line, and the train's T-boned me while she's watching, and taken me out. Well, that's what this kid was doing. He was T-boning our arrangements and not completely taking me out, but just disrupting a clear flow from her. He wanted to be, it was just disgraceful, and she enabled it. So I couldn't handle that. I said, oh no, I'm finished now. I mean, you're coming here and you're getting my masculinity, and then you're going back and emotionally living with them. She didn't want to go any further with me. So I let it go because there was attention deficit. She wasn't committing a time. It had nothing to do with work. As a matter of fact, I called her a ghost. It was like I was going with a ghost, and it'd just pop up when it suited it. It was terrible. There was no emotional connection. No, it was just sad how it got ruined, and it was ruined by the interference of the children, and it was ruined by her enmeshment with those children. She couldn't break that enmeshment. She was stuck in it. So while she wanted a man, she could only offer so much, and I wasn't prepared to go backwards any further and be conditioned to what I would call a disgraceful display of somebody who was trying to have a relationship. Obviously, I was the wrong person for her, because I don't care about, it was like it was a competition to see who could stay the quietest and who could stay away the longest. That's not a relationship, that's a circus. Because she was living out a life with her sons. So you need to be careful of these things. You need to be aware of these things. These things are predictable. And it's no good you getting cranky about it at the end. I mean, honestly, I got cranky at the end because she repeated the behaviour that she said she wouldn't. And I let her have it too. But no, this is all predictable. When she came back and said, right, well, I'll try not to let these people interfere, the mistake I made was I believed her. But I was only kidding myself, because deep in my spirit I knew it wasn't going to work, because she didn't have the acumen or the reciprocalness to make it work. So the best thing to do was to let it go. And you've got to act quickly with these things. You've got to act fast. And you've got to realise that there's every possibility that these things could happen. She just couldn't pair bond with me. She was pair bonded with her son, which is called covert emotional incest, which I have some videos on if you want to watch them. So this is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. I hope this helps you if you're getting involved in relationships with mothers and children, with children that aren't yours. I have no malice towards these people. If you have the courage to go into a relationship with these people, then this is the possibilities of what could happen. I'm sure there are some happy endings, but my tolerance hasn't allowed me to find one of those yet, and both times, or what is it now, 3 times I've had to let these people go. So this is Dr. Jason W. Morrison, Theologist, New South Wales, Australia. Bye for now.